Okay, Mingala Ba, everybody. Welcome to Telenor Myanmar's annual sustainability briefing, and thank you for joining us today. Please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Min Thu, and I lead the Business Sustainability and Special Projects team here at Telenor Myanmar, and I'll be the host for today's event. Before starting the session, I would like to briefly explain the agenda and introduce our speakers. So our program will have two parts. We will first present an update on our sustainability efforts and focus areas, the challenges we face, and how we are working through them. We will then follow up with Q&A. So the speakers for today's event are Jon Armen Revhag, our CEO, Hans Martin Henriksen, our Chief Corporate Affairs Officer, Selina Lompold, our Chief People Officer, myself and my teammate, Kempie Wondara, from our Corporate Responsibility and Supply Chain Sustainability team. So during the briefing, all speakers will present in English, but we have arranged for interpretations based on your preference. So please switch the interpretation channel as you wish from either English or Myanmar language. If you're attending from a web browser, you'll see an option to switch the interpretation channel within your browser. If you're attending from the Zoom app, your app should be updated to the latest version to see the interpretation channel. During the Q&A session, I would like to request all of you to please raise your hand in the app or web browser, and our co-host will unmute you so you can ask your questions. Please be mindful that we will not be taking any questions via the chat box during the Q&A session. Now I would like to start today's program with Telenor Myanmar's CEO. Over to you, please. Jon Armen, to start today's briefing.
Thank you, Min Thu. And welcome, everybody. Continue as soon as that is sorted out. Okay, we are good to go? Okay. Then, thank you, Min Thu, and welcome everybody. My name is Jon Armen Revhag, CEO of Telenor Myanmar since April this year. So welcome to the 7th sustainability briefing from Telenor Myanmar. We usually hold these briefings in the spring, in March, but this year, due to COVID, we're doing it in the autumn, or actually close to the winter time. It is really our effort to stay open and transparent about how we do business and the way we do business in Myanmar. And this briefing gives an overview and a briefing on the areas that we define as important to operate responsible the way we see it here. If I then go into our mission in Myanmar, which stands firm and it's not working. Next slide, please. Thank you. Our mission remains firm in Myanmar. We have 3 areas that are important to us. We provide mobile connectivity to everyone in Myanmar, regardless of where they live, where they work, or how they travel around. And I think through that, we really develop people and the industry ecosystem across the nation. And we build our business, what we call Telenor Way. We base our processes and business performance on global standards. And we will touch a lot on several of these standards through the session here with you today. Next slide, please. The business. Since last briefing, we have seen quite a lot of development in our industry at large, also within Myanmar and for Telenor specifically. The COVID-19 has, of course, impacted customers, our employees, and the society at large, and we'll expand on that through the day-to-day. But if I look at three main areas of where I think Telenor Myanmar are really, empowering society in our business in Myanmar. First of all, through connectivity itself. We have now established our infrastructure across more than 8,900 towers. We have the broadest reach across the nation. We are reaching more than 92% of the population, either on 2G, 3G, or 4G. So both voice and data has a very expansive coverage across the nation. The network speed and the capacity is vital for us, and it's part of our commitment to how we build in Myanmar. Daily, we reach more than 17 million customers that are using our services on our connection. And we see that we are the first in 5 of 7 mobile experience categories. And this is very important to us. 4G has become the standard, and we are really now building the next generation. We have launched 4.5G in Yangon and Mandalay, and we will continue to build that capacity across the nation as we move forward. From an economic perspective, Telenor has invested more than $3.3 billion since inception in Myanmar and up to date. This is vital, of course, and brings a lot of value to the country and to the society. And we also pay a significant tax to the society, more than 500 billion chats in tax contribution over the years. So we have been the #1 taxpayer in Myanmar for many years, and we are lastly announced as the top taxpayer for 2020 in August 2020 this year. So this is an important contribution to the country at large. Empowerment is key to how we operate. And empowerment is also about applying the same standards and rights to all parts and all parts of our supply chain. We have, for example, implemented what we call ABC. It's an agreement for responsible business conduct for all our suppliers. This agreement gives the suppliers an obligation to follow certain standards and way of work, and it gives us the right to monitor and track and also impose changes to the suppliers if they are not adherent and fulfilling these obligations. And over the years, we have provided more than 39,000 checks and inspections in the supply chain to secure that these obligations are fulfilled. Furthermore, digitization of society requires new skills to be built. And we employ that also on our own employees. So we have an internal program where we are requiring our staff to educate themselves. We have what we call 40-hour challenge. So all employees are required to actually take 40 hours of training per year. We are superseding that quite substantially. And in 2019, each of our employees actually reported 62 hours of training. The point here is that we are enabling for training, learning, and updating the skill set of our employees through the year. We also have a social impact program that is really that has reached now more than 1 million people across the country since inception. This addresses digital literacy, mobile health, and disaster relief programs that we are running on an annual basis. So in sum, our efforts in Myanmar really helps to drive inclusion, growth and empowerment of society. We also strive to reduce inequalities. Next slide, please. COVID has impacted the world and Myanmar in many ways, and we see that in our business. We have ourselves had to adapt and change very rapidly, and of course telecom has been a vital and essential service in the changes that the COVID has represented. We moved to home office and started working through video, and we are running this session here on video. So basically this drives the data usage, of course, and the usage of video and conferencing systems has risen by between 3 to 15 times, and more than 40% increase in video streaming usage. I think for us, this really drives the necessity of running and operating the networks in a reliable way. And we are very pleased that the telecom was announced and defined as an essential service during the second wave of COVID. It really helps us move across the nation and secure that the network is operating and running in stable manner. Next page, please. Being a part of being an essential service also means that we are part of a larger role of the society. And we have initiated many supporting activities through the COVID period, addressing our customers with discounts on top-ups, enabling low-cost recharge. We have presented free balance transfer during the first wave, and we have also given free access for Ministry of Health website, the COVID SMS health messaging platform, and more. We also support society larger by providing hospital care or medical equipment to the hospitals. So we reached out and basically asked for what the basic needs were, and procured and delivered hospital medical equipment to hospitals across. More than $100,000 worth. We also have provided quarantine centers with medical supplies, and we have increased 2 times our MBA scholarship program for students during these times. And lastly, we are supporting government with free access for teacher training, a COVID hotline contract, and a tracing app that we are really driving. So all of these efforts are really our way to support society as an essential service in these times. Next page, please. As we then move forward, the COVID will hopefully by not too far pass, and there will come different vaccines and means to come into a more new normal. And we believe that telecom is part of the recovery, and Telenor definitely sees ourselves as part of that contribution. We will continue to be a responsible and long-term investor in Myanmar, which is of course primary for the economic return and rebounds to happen in the nation. We will continue to support the digital economy with capability building, workshops and engagement with key government stakeholders. And we will build on consumer trust by enabling and empowering our customers, launching new online safety platforms. We are working with Plan in the DigiWorld. We will continue to do capacity building with the MMCERT, and we will continue to advocate for cybersecurity law, which is in line with international standards. Through these initiatives, we really hope that we will be able not to support the recovery alone, but to do so in a way that meets our commitment to reduce inequalities in Myanmar. And we would like to show you a video that explains this further. Next page, please.
We breathe the same air. We walk the same earth. We feel the same emotions. Yet are we all equal? Some of us live life to the fullest, while others live day to day. Some live for their work, while others are working just to live. Some of us are recognized the world over, while some of us grow up without an identity. More than ever, the world needs new tools to help us push ahead and advance the way we live, work, and learn. Imagine having everything from your doctor, to your money, to the ability to register your newborn child, all in the palm of your hand, along with new skills, new knowledge, and a world of opportunities to put them to use. Opportunities that are built on a foundation of respect, integrity, and responsibility. Companies and organizations that seek to raise standards and reduce inequalities. Everywhere, for everyone.
Telenor is committed to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and we are focusing particularly on the number 10, the reduce inequalities. We do that by raising standards and building capacity and capabilities in the nations and countries we operate, also so in Myanmar. And we do it by working with a wider access to services through partners that we work with in the country, both local partners and global partners. If we look at the areas that we are focused on, we continue to face operational challenges in Myanmar. We will touch upon each and every one of these 8 areas in the next part of this section. Raising supply chain standards is important to us. We have a special focus on improving road safety. We have a special focus on solving energy challenges with the clean energy initiative that we are running. We also work with the legal and regulatory frameworks and anti-corruption work. We are engaged in protecting human rights, and we work with partnerships to raise our own standards in the nation, such as UNICEF and Plan that we have here. And this is basically a way for us to really help empower the people in Myanmar by reducing inequalities the way we see it. So let me start with an update on some key challenges that we have faced. So there are 4 primary areas that we are focused on. First and foremost, anti-corruption. In Telenor, we have a zero tolerance for corruption. And this is reflected in our anti-corruption work that we do not only in Myanmar, but everywhere that we operate. Detecting and preventing corruption is really at the core of this work, and we have embedded processes and procedure and control mechanism in our value chain and the whole supply chain that really aims to solve this issue, detect it and work with it, and also strike down on it when we see it. We do not accept corruption, and we do not engage in corruption. It exists, and therefore we must address it by raising the awareness and building strong structures in how we operate around it in the countries we operate, and we do so here as well. There are maybe two key dilemmas on corruption that are at the forefront. Facility payments, particularly when agents operate on our behalf. We have a specific focus on that. And we also have a specific focus on enabling our employees to speak up through various channels, either direct or in hotline channels that secures confidentiality for themselves if they see anything that they want to report. And we have stringent controls in a no-gift policy, where also the integrity hotline allows employees to report instances if and when they see that. We also have a separate ethics and compliance committee established that really helps key business decisions and also helps us investigate objectively if anything is reported. Also, the agreement for responsible business conduct for all suppliers are addressing the anti-corruption work. Yeah, on the awareness part, we run programs through the company every year. So every single employee is being approached on this every year. Ethnic conflicts are there. So Myanmar has unfortunately been subject to ethnic conflicts for the last 60 years, and it places challenges for us in order to operate our networks in a sufficient and a safe way in the areas where this is a challenge. Safety for our staff and also for our supplier staff is at the core of our business, and we safeguard that very stringently. The Rakhine conflict has also led to reports on misuse of a tower lease by Telenor in Mungudo Township in northern Rakhine, and we will come back to that a little later in the presentation. Land rights are essential, so building towers is of course important to us. We have 8,900 of them. This was highlighted as a major risk of Telenor human rights due diligence back in 2013, and we have put a lot of efforts into securing that we have a duly process for understanding that land rights are right when we build, and we work together with our tower companies to ensure that due diligence and due process have been met to identify landowner, that the documentation of the ownership of the land is in place, that there is neighbor consent in place, and that we have conducted both the sample and announced inspections to verify that this is in place when they are being built. So building towers needs approval from relevant government authorities, local landlords and neighbors, and we strive to uphold this at the highest standard. The last part is around the independent regulator. Today, the current regulator is still not an independent of MPT and its owner, the Ministry of Transport and Communication. This was the assumption and the mandate at the end of 2015 in the telecom law. So this do create a conflict of interest that may distort free and fair competition in the country, and this is still a concern to us. The Myanmar Communication Commission Law, or the MCC law, now in drafting stages with new mobile operators entered the market in 2018, and we are following up on that. We truly hope that a true independent regulator will better support free and fair competition, and that the MCC law will be enacted and implemented in the very near future to achieve this aim. So on this, I now invite Hans Martin, our head of corporate affairs, to outline how we work to raise the standards through our vast supply chain. In the meantime, I invite you to watch a video to set the scene.
I wish there were more training that came with certificates. That way we can learn, do our jobs better, and rise up in the company.
Yeah, I agree. Like proper safety training so newcomers will stop accidentally jamming the machines.
Jeg ser virkelig frem til den dagen da jeg går på jobben, gjør det jeg skal, og fortsatt har mulighet til å være sammen med barna før de legger seg.
Our business runs through many cultures, each with its own challenges and opportunities. At Telenor, we're committed to understanding local work contexts while setting internationally recognized standards of sustainability, health and safety for our employees and across our supply chain.
Yes, thank you. I think you can flip to the next slide. Thank you. Thank you, Jon Oomen. Good afternoon to everyone. I'm Hans Martin Henriksen, the CCO in Telenor Myanmar. I will start my presentation by speaking about supply chain standards and raising those, as Jon Oomen mentioned. So ever since Telenor entered Myanmar 7 years ago, it has been our goal to raise the standards in our supply chain. Today we have approximately 800 companies and several thousand payees in our supply chain. We seek to raise the standards of all these partners within areas such as health and safety, anti-corruption, but also within human rights and labor rights. We do this to ensure the safety, well-being and ethical treatment of all those who work with Telenor in all our operations around the world. The starting point for this process is that we conduct a partner due diligence and risk assessment for all our potential suppliers. We do this to check if there have been breaches in their standards in the past. All suppliers are thereafter required to sign an agreement on responsible business conduct, as Jon Oomen mentioned, the ABC. And this agreement holds suppliers to our supply principles. We then train the suppliers and monitor and follow up with inspections. 100% of our Tier 1 suppliers have signed and onboarded in this process. From 2014 to date, as Jon Oomen mentioned, we have made some 15,000 inspections on our own hand, 24,000 by our vendors, so in total 39,000 inspections have been done. And what we have seen from 2014 is that the major findings that poses risk to life have fallen significantly to quite low levels. And for child labor, there are 0 findings now from 2017. We believe that this is due to 3 things. Firstly, a better understanding of our standards by all our suppliers and sub-suppliers. Secondly, better monitoring and enforcement by Telenor and our inspection team. And thirdly, the fact that our tower rollout also nears completion now, so less building of towers. We do, however, see that fatalities have happened and do happen in our business. Our ambition is that no one should lose their life while working for Telenor. Unfortunately, we have seen 3 cases of fatalities in tower construction back in 2014 and 2015, and 2 cases of traffic accidents in 2018 and 19, which we will come back to on how we are mitigating in the later part of the presentation. Recently, we have also had an unfortunate death of a vendor employee that died in a flash flood while on duty. This last accident has led to an action plan with our suppliers to prevent similar situations to occur in the future. I will now hand over to my colleague Min, who will go through the details of inspection findings. So Min, please.
Thank you very much, Hans Martin. So as our operation matures, our inspections continue to identify 3 broad categories of findings, which have caused or could cause fatalities and injuries, or are serious breaches of labor rights. The first of those is helmet non-compliance. So our field sales force sells SIM cards and top-ups on motorbikes outside of Yangon. And despite the activities, mitigation activities we've taken since November 2018, we still see, unfortunately, a substantial proportion of them not wearing helmets. We do see over time that there is increased compliance as a result of sort of more focused mitigating actions on our part, and we'll cover that later in the presentation. But our aim is to really have no cases of non-compliance in 2021. Our research indicates that the main cause on why this happens is that there's general social acceptance. So this is a phenomenon that's not unique to Myanmar. This is a phenomenon that is present in quite a lot of ASEAN countries and also other developing countries. And this most commonly happens outside major cities. This social acceptance is compounded by a lack of state enforcement. We've also received some feedback, actually, that wearing these helmets can be quite uncomfortable, especially during the hot season, or can disrupt hairstyles. So we'll discuss how we're dealing with these root causes later on in the presentation. The second broad area of findings are related to labor law non-compliance. These issues are mainly seen in our distributors, who are local SMEs operating with as little as 5 employees or less. So examples of this non-compliance include not signing the 14-page employment contracts that are mandated by the Labor Office, or the distributors not deducting or paying Social Security from employees' own salary, withholding of original ID documents as a condition for employment, and others. So according to our experience, the root causes of this are a lack of understanding by our SME suppliers on the complexities of Myanmar's labor law, as well as maybe some of the requirements of this labor law not fitting well with the business nature of these SMEs. We also note that state enforcement of these labor laws could also be improved. We've tried to work with insurers to try and mitigate some of these issues, but we do note that they're not all able to offer sort of customized insurance products that meet our distributors' needs. So overall, we have seen that these cases are declining again due to our concerning actions, but we are aiming to have 100% compliance with labor laws and standards in 2021. And to make this happen, we've ramped up capacity building and training amongst our suppliers and their employees, as well as consulting labor experts to understand and find solutions to our most complex problems. We've also facilitated conversations between local insurers and Fidelity and Cash in Transit to provide Fidelity and Cash in Transit products that fit the unique needs of our distributors. The third area of findings relate to tower site safety. So this ranges from relatively minor issues such as expired fire extinguishers, leakage of fuel, or incomplete signage, to much more serious issues such as gates and fences being damaged with exposed electrical points or open diesel generators that are within a child's reach. These are not issues that we take lightly, as these issues have led or could lead to serious injuries or allegations of tower misuse, and it could also pose a threat to life. There are 3 reasons why this occurs, according to our research. So as our sites age and our network becomes more extensive, there's a significant need for operations and maintenance activities, and the current level provided by some of our tower vendors is insufficient to meet these needs. Also, as our generators store fuel to generate electricity, this fuel is actually a precious commodity in rural areas, and we have seen that gates and fences are purposely damaged to trespass the site for stealing fuel and even electricity in some cases. We also note that our vendors could also place a higher priority on health and safety on our towers. We've been trying to solve these issues through increased risk-based inspections. We're also working a lot more closely with senior staff from our tower companies to discuss and resolve these safety issues on a weekly basis. And if we do not see good progress within 2021, we may explore penalties to achieve 100% compliance as our unnegotiable priority is to prevent loss of life and injury on any site owned or leased by Telenor. I now hand over back to Hans Martin to present the next section on road safety.
Thank you, Min. So, as I mentioned earlier in my presentation, our fatalities back in 2018 and 2020 were tied to road safety. To correct this situation, we have since 2018 conducted some 200 transport safety inspections. At the start, we were surprised to find that 40% of our field sales force did not use helmets, especially since these helmets were actually supplied to them by Telenor. We therefore activated a safety program and implemented a transport safety policy. This policy outlines the company's expectations to all employees and suppliers. The policy has zero tolerance for non-compliance and a sanction program for breaches. Breaches are penalized financially and after 3 offenses, dismissal. This may sound harsh, but we found that it's required to create a safety culture that actually saves lives in our organization. We also reinforce this policy by providing transport safety training and retraining. To date, 300 field employees and 2,000 suppliers have been trained. Through all these activities, our helmet compliance is up from 60% to now 82%. Our goal is to reach 100% in the not-so-distant future. And as Min said, we believe the root cause to lack of traffic safety culture is found in social acceptance, lack of enforcement, and also the physical discomfort from carrying a helm that he mentioned. Going forward, we will address these factors through consultations with the National Road Safety Council. And we are also exploring new technologies within GPS and Internet of Things that can track driver behavior. We are doing this as figures show that it is driver behavior that actually causes and reduces accidents. Helmet use only reduces the impact of accidents when they occur. I will now turn to Min again, who will present on another interesting topic.
Thank you very much, Hans Martin. So the topic I'm going to present now is of great importance to Telenor and also very beneficial for our environment. So ICT companies such as ours are significant energy users. Over the last decade, Telenor has focused on energy efficiency initiatives in our network operations, on understanding climate-related risks, and also the business potential for climate-friendly IoT-based solutions. So going forward, we're going to step up our efforts on climate, starting with our ambition to reduce the carbon footprint of our operations. So in 2019, across Telenor's businesses around the world, we emitted 1.1 million tons of CO2. 96% of that is in Asia, and 11% of the total is in Myanmar. So the high emissions in Myanmar are actually due to the limitations of the grid. We realize that the grid only covers 40% of the population, whereas our network actually covers 92% of the population. So that gap is actually bridged by having to use diesel generators which drive carbon emissions. So the ambition is actually to, across Telenor, reduce carbon emissions by 50% over the next 10 years. And this will be achieved through carbon neutrality in Europe, in other words, 100% reduction in Europe, and a 50% reduction in Asia. So while we're still discussing the Myanmar-specific targets for reduction, we are already engaging proactively in negotiations with our tower companies to replace our polluting diesel generators with cleaner grid and solar energy solutions with additional investment from Telenor. So not only will this result in significant improvements for Telenor, it will benefit the environment and it will also benefit the economy. And the next video should explain further. And then I would then like to hand over to Hans Martin to present the next section. Video, please.
Singlaba, we all know in Myanmar, having the commercial power, especially in the rural areas, is a big challenge. Still more than 60% of the rural population are without the commercial power. Running mobile phone operation in these areas is a big challenge, but being an innovative organization, Telenor Myanmar has introduced the solar powered base station in most of these areas, and also we are connecting the off-grid sites to the commercial power whenever and wherever it is found feasible. With these solutions, of course, we are reducing the fuel consumption, reducing the cost, but also we are improving the network experience for these customers, and also we are helping the environment, reducing the carbon emission. Thank you.
So we're now shifting subjects, going into human rights. Telenor is committed to respecting human rights as set out in the UN Guiding Principles, the OECD Guidelines, Children's Rights and Business Principles, and the UN Global Compact Principles. These are all the UN Bill of Human Rights. The mentioned principles, along with our policies, our code of conduct, our supplier conduct principles, and our visions and values, provide us with a common approach as to how we treat each other, how we serve our customers, run our business, and what we believe is our role in the societies that we serve. As stated by Jon Oomen, Telenor's mission in Myanmar is to provide mobile, internet access to everyone without discrimination, and as per our license commitments. Before entering Myanmar in 2014, Telenor commissioned a thorough human rights impact assessment. This was part of the due diligence to identify risk that we may face while implementing our mission in the country. We continue to work with the risks identified and have taken many steps to further improve our processes and follow-up. Whenever we encounter human rights challenges, we consult with local and international civil society organizations, UN organizations and experts, as well as local stakeholders and right holders that may be impacted. One example of this is our team of state liaison officers, we call them SLOs, who have conducted stakeholder consultations since 2014. These are done on a regular basis in all ethnic states, particularly in conflict zones. Since 2014, our SLO teams have conducted 6,000 stakeholder engagement meetings all over the country, covering nearly 85,000 community members. We have also provided widespread training internationally on human rights and how it affects our core functions within the organization. To date, we have trained all 200 senior managers within Telenor Myanmar with expectation that human rights awareness is cascaded through the organization by doing this. We will continue to hold such trainings on a regular basis going forward. However, for Telenor Myanmar, 2019 and 2020 has been the most challenging from a human rights perspective. Min will take us through the details of these human rights challenges. Please, Min.
Thank you very much, Hans Martin. So as a principle, Telenor believes in the potential of emerging technologies while maintaining a firm dedication to data protection and the protection of the universal human rights of freedom of expression and privacy. However, as a licensed operator in Myanmar, the government of Myanmar has legal authority to order operators to implement authority requests. And so far we've received 4 types, and I'll go over each briefly. The first is personal data requests. So the telecom law gives the union government the right to request the digital footprint of customers while protecting the basic rights of the citizens of Myanmar. It is Telenor's interpretation of the telecom law that releasing this digital footprint requires a court order. But as an interim arrangement, pending clear legislation on this area, we require that all requests for releasing confidential customer information is sent from the police to our telecom regulator, PTD, for their consent, as well as a release from our obligations under our license together with supporting documentation. Independent of approval from PTD, we perform our own assessment of each case before deciding to release the requested information. And a fundamental document in making this decision is the first incident report, which demonstrates that the case has been registered with a magistrate. So since October 2014, we have received 327 formal requests, and we've only complied with 217. We cannot give details of these cases, but what I can say is that it relates to life or death situations such as murder, drugs, or missing person investigations. But as you can see from the graph, the trend over time is that both the number of requests made and compliant requests are both increasing. And this is likely due to the fact that the authorities are increasingly realizing the value of a digital footprint in tackling these major crimes, as well as after several years of experience, the authorities have a better understanding of the criteria to gain this digital footprint for major crimes and the comprehensive set of documentation required. The next challenge I would like to talk about from authority request perspective is the internet shutdown. So up until 19th of June 2019, Telenor and its peers had received no requests for internet shutdown or indeed website censorship. This all changed on 20th of June 2019 when all 4 operators received the first internet shutdown order covering 8 Northern Rakhine and 1 Chin township. We believe that freedom of expression through access to telecom services should be maintained for humanitarian purposes, especially during the times of conflict that we see in that area. We believe that transparency is key to ensuring accountability and that the impact of the shutdown on local communities and economies needs to be balanced with security considerations. Unfortunately, over the course of 2019 and 20, we received 6 orders in relation to the same region. You can read more details about this at the QR code and also at the link at the bottom of the slide. When we receive these orders, we always assess and advocate for legality, necessity, and proportionality. We always arrive at the same conclusion that these orders are disproportionate, but the consequences of us not complying could actually impact the connectivity of other customers nationwide. This leads us to a very challenging position where we are left with no viable option other than to comply to ensure that customers remain connected nationwide. But every time we had to comply, we communicated this compliance to our customers via SMS. We posted a public statement on our website, both in English and Myanmar language. We continued our advocacy and dialogue with our government to lift the shutdown as soon as possible. And we also engage our civil society partners for guidance and expertise. We are generally concerned that these internet shutdown orders are not accompanied by a court order, which would normally reflect a division of powers between the executive and judiciary. This creates a risk of lack of checks and balances, which increases the possibility of misuse of executive powers. We are highly encouraged by civil society's mobilization to advocate for a full restoration of internet services, including 3G and 4G now, and we urge civil society to continue their great work in promoting freedom of expression in Northern Rakhine and Chin. Telenor too will do its part in continuing our dialogue and advocacy towards the government for a full restoration of services in these 8 townships as soon as possible. Now moving on to website blocking. This is another type of request that we continue to receive at quite an alarming pace, and it relates to blocking websites and IP addresses. So Telenor, other operators, ISPs, and international gateways have all received 13 requests covering nearly 2,300 sites across 5 categories defined by the government, namely porn, child abuse, alleged fake news, gambling, and cybersecurity. While Telenor has been transparent on the fact that this blocking has been requested and the category of the websites, we cannot reveal the name of these blocked websites due to confidentiality laws and the potential for legal and other consequences if we breach this confidentiality. So every time we receive such a request, we evaluate the legality, necessity, and proportionality of every request. While we find that the requests are legal under Article 77 of the Telecom Law, some of the orders are not necessary and not proportionate. So Telenor enters into a dialogue with the government to understand the rationale for the blocking and to withdraw the order if we feel that the order is not necessary and proportionate. In doing so, we were advised by the government that compliance was the only option, with a threat of legal consequences for non-compliance. So customers accessing any blocked website on Telenor's network will be directed to a landing page explaining that this blockage is happening because of a government order. We have also communicated our actions on our website in English and Myanmar language. And we also frequently engage with our local and international civil society partners, including the GNI, extensively. I would now like to highlight 3 key trends on the website blocking. So as per the internet shutdown, Telenor has not received any court orders related to any website blocking order. We feel this is important to ensure that there are checks and balances between the executive and the judiciary to ensure that these executive powers are not misused. Secondly, as has been frequently reported in the media, some websites that contain criticism of the ruling party, the military, and its leaders have been blocked. So these actions are highly disproportionate as they limit freedom of expression from a political perspective in Myanmar. In early 2020, Telenor and its peers received a first request to implement what is called keyword filtering. So if this is implemented, it means that any website or news article containing a specific keyword will be automatically blocked to all users in Myanmar. And this is even true if the words or sentences that match with the keyword are not related to the offensive content in any way. So we as Telenor are highly concerned of this kind of escalation, and we were not able to implement keyword filtering. So in light of the growing escalations that limit freedom of expression on website blocking, Telenor submitted a recommendation paper to the government in September 2020. This covered international best practices on content moderation that comply with ICCPR, with UDHR, and other international conventions. But we have not yet received a response to this letter. The last type of request I would like to cover is lawful intercept. So law enforcement agencies all over the world have the ability to access live voice, SMS data and location data of potential crime suspects to help with criminal investigations. The Myanmar government has likewise requested all operators ISPs to implement such a system under current laws as soon as technically possible. So while we do see that the Myanmar government has a legal basis to request such interception, we are concerned that existing laws and regulations do not contain clear definitions on when such powers can and cannot be used, as well as other legal and regulatory safeguards to ensure that these powers are used in a proportionate and necessary way. Furthermore, as the government plans to directly access each operator and ISP systems without case-by-case approval, we feel that this creates an opportunity for misuse that may breach our customers' human rights. So in summary, we have a responsibility as Telenor to protect the privacy, freedom of expression, and security of our customers. However, the current legal and regulatory framework makes it very challenging for us to live up to our responsibility. We have repeatedly advocated, and we continue to advocate, for clearly defined laws and regulations in line with international human rights standards in conversations with government, in capacity building workshops, in industry-wide roundtable discussions, as well as in consultations to laws. We initially believed that the legal framework for authority requests in line with international human rights principles would be contained in the cybersecurity law. We were concerned to learn recently that authority requests will not be included in this law, and therefore the only remaining option for us in legally protecting our customers' rights is in clarifying or modifying existing laws. And we look forward to continuing to work with all interested parties, including the government, in building a rights-respecting legal and regulatory framework in the coming months and years. I now hand over to Hans Martin to talk about our next human rights issue.
Thank you, Min. So we're now moving over to SIM registration. The SIM registration directive that only allows max 2 SIM cards per operator per ID card. Firstly, I think we should be aware that mandatory SIM card registration is a quite common practice around the world. Roughly 150 out of 200 countries has this requirement. In Myanmar, it became a requirement in 2014. While the reason for SIM registration may be focused on national security, it can also aid development of a digital economy, especially for secure mobile money and banking transactions. However, without a national database against which ID cards can be verified, control and authentication is very difficult. Doing this in the right way also requires inclusion, so that anyone, regardless of religion or race, should be able to get a SIM card. It requires transparency in laws, so customers know their data will and will not be used, and it requires the ability to validate to prevent duplication and fraud. Few of these conditions were met when the most recent SIM registration directive was implemented in Myanmar in February 2020. According to the 2014 census, 27% of the population did not have an ID at that time. Prior to February 2020, 9 types of IDs were accepted. But maybe more importantly, village or ward recommendations letters were accepted to register SIM for those without IDs. After February 2020, these recommendations letters were no longer accepted, making it challenging to register for those without IDs. To minimize the impact on the directive on our customers, Telenor rapidly mobilized resources to ensure as many customers as possible could be registered before the deadline. We provided several options for customers to register their SIMs with correct IDs. We also embarked on a national media awareness campaign, while also advocating directly and indirectly for wider acceptance of IDs to ensure that those without the required IDs were not disconnected. And this brings me to the Northern Rakhine, where the challenges of SIM registrations were amplified, with almost 1 million people subject to full internet shutdown at the time. Over 40% of those individuals did not have any form of ID according to the 2014 consensus. Over 99% of the Rohingya population in these areas did not have any form of ID according to the UN. In these areas, during a window of 25 days, we managed to get approval for acceptance of household lists, and that they should be acceptable for SIM registration. We also got approval for manual registrations via post to get around the internet shutdown. This allowed for people without ID, including Rohingya parts of populations, to register SIM even without access to the internet. We utilized this window of opportunity and immediately sent SMSs to the affected populations, informing them of the changes in the regulations. And we rapidly sought the assistance of the Center for Social Inclusion, who had resources already positioned in the internet shutdown area. Over the next 25 days, CSI volunteers went door to door in the villages and customer to customer in the cities in order to register as many customers as possible. In all, Telenor and CSI were able to register nearly 6,000 highly vulnerable and active customers in Northern Rakhine, who would have had their connections disconnected by the government directive. I would like to wholeheartedly thank Sayar Ang Chau Mo and team for their vital assistance in protecting the rights of the populations in the area. So what would be required to support a sustainable SIM registration solution? The government is now planning to implement biometric SIM registration, where fingerprints will be matched with IDs. But we believe biometric SIM registration would be challenging and costly exercise for Myanmar to embark on without four things being in place. Firstly, inclusive access to SIM cards. It is vital for freedom of expression that those with and without IDs are able to access telecom services. For those without IDs, allowances need to be made to ensure that they get IDs as quickly as possible and not be disconnected without alternative remedies being available. Secondly, rights to privacy should be enshrined in law, with customers being aware of the data that will be captured, how their data will and will not be used, and by whom. It is important that such laws are well enforced and that breaches of such laws are dealt with in line with rule of law. Thirdly, world-class database security is necessary to safeguard that no customer details are compromised and data breaches are resolved promptly. And finally, there needs to be an ability to validate ID cards against the national ID database. This in order to avoid duplication of IDs. I will now change the subject, and you can shift the slide, please. And this is about the tower issue that John Norman also mentioned in his initial presentation. And this is another human rights dilemma faced by us in the reported misuse of a tower of one of our vendors by the Myanmar military during the Rakhine crisis in August 2017. The tower is located in a village in the Mangdao township in Rakhine. The misuse was highlighted by the Caladan Press Network report in November 2018. A representative of a group of refugees in Cox's Bazar called the CSJA submitted a complaint related to Telenor to the national contact point of the OECD in Norway in December 2019. The complaint alleges that firstly, Telenor failed to conduct ongoing due diligence for responsible business conduct in accordance with the OECD guidelines. Secondly, that Telenor's reactions to the matter was not consistent with the guidelines once it was made aware. And thirdly, questions to Telenor's role in the internet shutdown in northern Rakhine. We understand that the aim of the complainants is to have the issues raised in the complaint thoroughly examined by the Norwegian NCP. The complainants do not seek financial compensation. In our response to the complaint, we state the following. Telenor is deeply concerned by the alleged crimes. As soon as we learned about the allegations, we requested investigation with third-party oversight into the alleged incidents to the authorities in writing and in person. We tried to request a meeting with the Ministry of Home Affairs through the Norwegian Embassy, but to date, this has been unsuccessful. We repeated our request for an official investigation to the MOTC in January 2020, but have yet to receive a response. Secondly, Telenor is fully committed to complying with OECD guidelines and NCP process, and we will provide any required information in a timely and transparent manner until the process concludes. Thirdly, in relation to the complaint, we highlight that maintaining ordinary infrastructure for civilian use is not an activity that causes or contributes to adverse impact. The alleged military use of civil infrastructure is completely unauthorized. All Telenor towers are unmanned, but are fenced off to prevent unauthorized entry. However, neither fences nor security guards could or would stop unauthorized entry by force, particularly during a time of armed conflict with the Tatmadaw. Fourthly, Telenor conducts rigorous due diligence and risk assessment in conflict areas. Before entering Myanmar in 2014, Telenor conducted its own due diligence and commissioned a number of third-party pre-investment due diligence processes. These covered human rights, labor rights, corruption, and environmental sustainability. The tower, which the complaint concerns, is owned and operated by Irrawaddy Green Towers, one of the companies selected by Telenor following Telenor's vendor due diligence process. Also, Telenor observed safety and human rights during the timeline of tower construction. The tower was erected in 2016, but was not operational until March 2018 due to conflict in the area. After becoming aware of the report regarding the incident, Telenor conducted inspections on the tower site. None of the inspections carried out subsequently reported signs of unusual activity. Nevertheless, Telenor is committed to continuous improvement and learning, and will implement the recommendations set out by the OECD to better align its processes to the guidelines. I have now covered challenges across multiple domains. We will now cover how we are promoting human rights and socio-economic development in Myanmar. I therefore invite colleague Piet Piet to go through our inspiring global partnerships.
Hello, everyone. My name is Piet Piet, and I'm heading Corporate Responsibility and Supply Chain Sustainability of Telenor Myanmar. As part of our commitment to reducing inequalities, we implement projects that increase access to services and facilitate rights. One such project is the Mobile Birth and Death Registration, MBDR project. Birth registration is the first identity and first right of every child, and is the gateway to a variety of government services for children ranging from healthcare to education. However, not every child born in Myanmar has a birth certificate. UNICEF data suggests that nationally, the percentage of children having a birth certificate is around 80%, but this varies significantly by state. Nearly all children born in Yangon have a birth certificate, while the percentage in Chin, Rakhine, and Shan states are significantly lower. Universal birth registration is an ambition of the Union government. In order to facilitate this ambition, in October 2019, UNICEF and Telenor launched the MBDR project in Mon State. The project will allow all township medical officers across Mon State to register and issue certificates using a digital mobile recording system for the first time in Myanmar. The project will also serve as a pilot that will inform the national scale-up of the electronic platform, and is an example of an e-government in Myanmar. Not having to fill multiple duplicate paper forms will also increase the productivity of midwives and give them more time caring for new mothers. Today, the pilot continues in Mon State. There have been some delays due to COVID, but with the great work being done by UNICEF, the Union government, and the state government, 21,000 births and 9,000 deaths have been registered using the app. We are confident that all midwives in Mon State will be using the application in 2021. We have prepared a short video which shows digital birth registration in action and feedback from key stakeholders.
ဆရာမတို့ပြန်လာပြီလားထိုင်ထိုင်ရော့ဆရာမတို့ဒီနေ့လုပ်ခဲ့တဲ့မွေးစင်းရဲ့မွေးလက်မှတ်တွေ
ဆရာမြန်လိုက်တာ
မြောင်နေဘက်ကမယ်ဆရာမတို့ပြန်ကူးစရာလည်းမလိုတော့ဘူးပထမတစ်ချိန်မှန်အောင်ဖြူထားရုံနဲ့အမျက်မှန်ကန်တဲ့အချက်လက်တွေကိုတင်ထားနိုင်ပြီပေါ့ဒီအချက်လက်တွေကဘယ်တော့မှအောင်ပြောက်ပြတ်တော့ဘူးပြည်သူတွေရဲ့လိုအပ်ချက်တွေရောနိုင်ငံတော်အတွက်ပါတိကျတဲ့စီးရင်တွေရေးကြီးတဲ့အချက်တွေကိုမြန်မြန်ဆန်ဆန်တိတိကျကျခိုင်ခိုင်မာမာတင်ထားနိုင်ပြီပေါ့ဆရာမတို့ရေ
Next slide, please. Moving now on to online safety. Myanmar's boom in internet penetration since the liberalization of the telecom sector in 2014 has increased new socioeconomic and entertainment opportunities, but also a variety of unhealthy online behaviors. With the approval of Ministry of Education, Telenor and our sustainability partners have delivered training in all states and regions since 2016. While this program has the largest online safety training outreach of any organization in Myanmar, it is only a small proportion of the millions of students that go through the school system every year and need this training. That is why in August 2019, Telenor and Plan International partnered together and jointly launched a digital resilience program. The objective of the program is to ensure all students are trained on online safety in future. This includes tolerance, respect, and the dangers of hate speech as per the UN fact-finding mission's recommendation, as well as teaching teachers and students how to detect fake news. We aim to educate a total of 700,000 students between 2016 to 2021. We had hoped to reach over 1 million, but we had to tone down our ambition due to COVID restriction on gatherings. We will continue our training virtually to school teachers so they will be positioned to carry on the training whenever schools reopen. To help continue our program despite COVID, Telenor has also recently launched Myanmar language version of DigiWorld, an online safety platform co-developed by Telenor Group and online safety experts, Parents Owned. You can scan the QR code on the slide to experience DigiWorld. The UN fact-finding mission recommended that a curriculum is needed, especially in schools, to promote tolerance and respect while teaching about the dangers of hate speech. With this in mind, we will work together with Plan International to build an evidence base to advocate online safety curriculum in the national curriculum. In the meantime, I would like to share a video with highlights from Plan and Telenor Myanmar's Digital Resilience Training Program.
International တုန်းကနေပြီးတော့ပို့ပေါင်းပြီးတော့ဒီဒေသတော်ကိုစိတ်ချတဲ့ internet အသုံးပြုမှုဆိုင်ရာဟောပြောပွဲတွေကိုပြုလုပ်ပြီးတဲ့အခါမှာဒီနည်းနည်းစာတွေဟာဒီလိုပို့တာတွေကိုဘယ်လိုဖြည့်ရှင်းရမလဲ report ထုတ်ရတဲ့ကိစ္စတွေပေါ့နော်ဒါတွေကိုတက်လာကြတယ်မကောင်းနဲ့ပေါ့နော်ဒီသတင်းအမှားတွေပေါ့ဒါတွေကိုသတင်းအမှားလားအမှားလားသိရှိလာနိုင်ကြတယ်
As your children grow up in a new digital age and spend more time online, it becomes increasingly important to teach them how to use the internet safely and productively as they transition to become successful adults. Under our joint online safety initiative, Plan International and Telenor are very excited to be working together with the Ministry of Education on curriculum integration for long-term impact and sustainability in Myanmar.
ကျွန်တော်တို့ဒီဘေးကင်းလုံခြုံပြီးတော့မှစံခံပြီးတော့မှနိုင်ငံရေးဖြစ်နိုင်အောင်ကျွန်တော်တို့ဒီလိုအပ်တဲ့အသိပညာတွေကိုကျွန်တော်တို့ education တွေကိုကျွန်တော်တို့ကဆောင်ရွက်ပြီးမယ်ဆိုရင်သူတို့တွေရဲ့ဒီမှာနှစ်ပါးကိုပြန်ပြီးတော့ညှဝေမယ်သူတို့ရဲ့ဦးဖွားဦးလေးတော့ဒီကောင်မောင်နှမတွေပြန်ပြီးပြန်ဝေတာဒီတနိုင်ငံလုံးပဲဖြစ်သွားမှာဖြစ်ပါတယ်။ကြောင့်မလို့ digital နည်းပညာနဲ့ဘေးကင်းတဲ့ internet စီမံကိန်းပညာရေး ဌာနအတွက်နိုင်ငံတော်အတွက်ကျွန်တော်တို့ပြည်သူတွေအတွက်ဟုတ်လားအထူးသဖြင့်လူငယ်တွေအတွက်အင်မတန်ကျွန်တော်တို့အရေးကြီးပါတယ်
I would now like to invite our CPO Selina to cover the next two inspiring sections.
Thank you, Pierre. And Mingalaba, I am here to brief you on empowering employees and youth in Myanmar. We are in Telenor Myanmar, a truly diverse organization with employees from 10 nationalities working closely together to empower the society. In regard to gender diversity, we see today an increasing pool of qualified female talents in the market, and their numbers in universities often significantly outnumber men. We are proud to state that 39% of our employees are women, and 27% of our leadership positions are occupied by females too. We aim to provide this group with the best chances of succeeding in their careers, and we are the first organization in Myanmar to offer 6 months maternity leave and flexible hours and ways of working, helping mothers, but also all others to have a favorable work-life balance. We have also established a People Care Board, which is a forum where discussions are held to address organizational changes and improvements. Members of this board can provide the management team with a direction and feel of people-related concerns. The board is sponsored by Jon Omund and I, and employee representatives are elected by other employees through a formal election process. We do this because we believe it is important to give everyone a voice and to ensure there's a direct line from employees all the way to the management. In a dynamic sector as ours, we must keep retraining and rebuilding our capacity to prepare for our future challenges. In 2018, our group CEO set a challenge out to all employees to allocate 40 hours of their working time every year for online learning, preferably in a working domain different from your current one. And this is the program Jon Omund also talked about in the beginning of this brief. We have therefore signed up for major online learning platforms such as LinkedIn and Coursera. And in 2020 alone, our employees have so far done 63 hours in average, and thereby outcompeting our own achievement from last year, which was 62 hours in average for the whole year. Lastly, we have, in the light of COVID-19 and the potential risk our employees are facing still serving our customers as an essential service provider, we have launched several COVID care initiatives to protect and keep our people and their families both healthy and sound and as free of infections as possible. We have supported our organization with monthly safety allowances, hotel quarantine, funds for our indirect sales staff, but also distributed essential food, medicine, masks, ergonomic chairs, headphones, and other safety gear. And then obviously, all functions possible and needed have been working from home from April until now to control the spread of the virus. Next slide, please. Over the years, Telenor Myanmar has initiated various programs to empower the youth here in Myanmar, and I will briefly talk about 4 of them. According to the 2018 UNFPA Gender Inequality Index, Myanmar ranked 148 out of 189 countries in gender inequality. To tackle the issue, Plan International initiated the Girls Takeover project, which hopes to develop young girls' capacity and ambitions and to inspire young women to become the leaders of tomorrow. Telenor Myanmar also took part in this, and last month, an inspiring young lady by the name of Shun Let learned about the tasks of our CEO, Jon Omund, and gained valuable career advice from him. Telenor Myanmar is also proud of partnering with the Myanmar Independent Living Initiative, or MELI, to implement Telenor Open Mind, a job training program offering people with physical disabilities or mental health challenges a unique chance for employment. In Telenor Myanmar, we currently have 3 employees as part of this program, and we are hiring additional 3 in 2021. Telenor Myanmar has also sponsored 20 students for an MBA in strategic ICT management to help prepare Myanmar's youth for a career in the ICT sector. The program is run in partnership with the Myanmar Metropolitan University and Swiss University UBIS. It combines the traditional MBA with lectures and training from 18 senior Telenor experts, giving the students industry insights and training and an opportunity to network with our group of talents and experts. Finally, Telenor Myanmar has taken in and on board 15 interns on average per year since 2015. We are partnering Yangon Technology and Management Universities, and our interns typically work on real projects and tasks across various functions alongside Telenor staff for 3 months. Good portion of these, they later join Telenor as full-time employees. I would now like to hand over and back to our CEO, Jon Omund.
Thank you, Selina. And thank you, everybody, for the presentation. This concludes our briefing here today, and I hope you have found it informative and interesting with a broad set of items to brief and update you on. As Telenor Myanmar continue to lead Myanmar's data evolution, we do so in a responsible and a sustainable way. We truly believe that telecom is a key driver for the economic growth that is to come in Myanmar going forward after the COVID. We will continue the collaboration with various stakeholders to address ongoing human rights challenges, and we will continue our work on critical legal and regulatory framework that is still needed to develop. So we continue empowering Myanmar. Thank you, everybody, for your attention through this session, and we now open for Q&A session. And if I can ask the team to come on the stage so the relevant persons can answer different questions.
Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? You look by it. Hello? Hello? Wow.
We will give it some time, maybe.
Hello.
Yeah.
David Allen speaking.
Yes.
Hello?
So in
Hello?
Hello, we can hear you. Please ask your question.
in previous briefings, I've asked Telenor to assist in making information available to help assist national energy service monitoring at the tower sites. So you have this type of information. This would give incredibly valuable information for improving national energy service reliability. It seems that it hasn't been possible despite Telenor's earlier and initial interest in this and description that it was in fact technically feasible. So in your comments on improving climate change results and increased cleaner grid usage, these sorts of energy system improvements would greatly improve the government, and it would also assist Telenor to improve your costs. So I'd love to hear an update on that, please. So my name's David Allen. I'm representing the Energy and Poverty Research Group and also Spectrum Sustainable Development Knowledge Network. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for that question. And I'm actually not aware of that background. So Hans Martin, you can fill in.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yes, hello, David. I think the same question was actually asked last year and maybe even the year before. What I can say is that we're continuously improving our grid connections on the towers. We are moving in the right direction, both on grid connection and solar power. However, as you probably know after meeting with our management last year, it is a bit problematic for us to provide this kind of data because it's actually handled by our vendors, our energy vendors, and it requires quite a lot of resources to actually be able to provide this data. But we would be quite willing to meet with you again if you can set up a meeting schedule with us, and we will try to see if we can accommodate this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, this is kindly John with Bloomberg. Here I have a couple of questions for you. Firstly, I'm really glad to hear that Telenor Myanmar has invested 3.3 billion US dollar in Myanmar. It's quite a huge amount for the developing country like Myanmar. I'm wondering how much do you plan to invest in the expansion of your network and the whole business operation here in Myanmar next year? This is my first question. And secondly, could you please tell me about your expansion strategy for 2021? Is there any specific target for the growth rate, revenue, and the number of subscribers and sites by the end of next year? Could you please share? And last but not least, I just tried the Speed Plus since the past few days, and I have found out that it is really fast. And I really enjoy such a high speed, and I guess 5G will be much faster than this Speed Plus. So my question is, my last question is, how fast we can see the commercial launch of 5G on the Telenor network in Myanmar? Do you think is it possible next year, or do you have any specific timeline for the 5G?
Yeah, so thank you for the questions. Regarding future investment, we don't relieve that kind of numbers in advance. What I can say is that, as you mentioned, we continue to focus our investment on the infrastructure, and we are launching 4.5G. We've started in Yangon and Mandalay, and we will continue to develop and advance our networks across the nation. So this program will continue to roll out during 2021, outside Yangon, going south, and then further again north and to the other areas. So our ambition is, of course, to provide the strongest data experience, the best data experience of all operators. And I'm really pleased to get the feedback on the speed dial. It is the first time it's really possible to implement that kind of functionality in Myanmar, and we are quite proud of that feature, and very happy to hear the feedback on it. On your follow-up question regarding 5G, I think Telenor, we will continue, as I said earlier, to invest in Myanmar. Actually, Myanmar has gone from a unconnected to a hyper-connected society in record time. And we, from Telenor's side, we have one of the most advanced 4G, now 4.5G networks in Asia deployed here in Myanmar. So I think that says something about the commitment. When it comes to 5G, we will implement that when a number of parameters are in place, and that includes spectrum allocation from the authorities. There needs to be, use cases that are relevant for the public and the customers that are not really able to enable on our current infrastructure. And the reason for us upgrading to 4.5G is really that this platform can deliver significant upgrade of our services, and there is a lot to do on this platform, and it is an evolvement and enabling us to evolve further towards 5G when that time comes. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your answer. Could you please?
Thank you. Can I speak now? Hello?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Right. Yeah, my name is Ewan. I'm the Information Officer of the United Nations and the United Nations Resident Coordinator's Office, as well as the UN Information Center. I note that in your presentations, you have mentioned your collaboration with the UN several times, and you referred to several of the UN's instruments as well as the reports. Now, I was just wondering whether that you have a comprehensive report available on how you have addressed the goals. I noticed that you mentioned the SDG 10, as well as the other concerns that the UN has raised regarding Telenor. Thank you. Over to you.
Yes, Mintu, you will answer that, I think.
Yep, happy to. So you're absolutely right. We are committed to implementing the UN SDGs with a focus on number 10, as Norman mentioned earlier in the presentation. So in terms of the work that we're doing with the UN, we have highlighted the programs with UNICEF, for example, and we're very happy with the great work that they're doing. In addition to the work with Plan International on our achievements. So in terms of how we're going to report this, we will report this at two levels. So locally within Myanmar, we will be reporting our achievements of our targets, again, on these projects in press releases and also on our website. But at a group level, at a consolidated level, there's also annual reporting that takes place in our annual sustainability report that has some of these metrics as well. So I invite you to have a look at, depending on what scope you want to look at. If it's from Myanmar, I highly recommend you to check our press releases as well as the figures in this presentation. But if it's sort of a global, looking at Telenor Group's implementation of UN SDG 10, I would direct you towards the group-wide sustainability report. Thank you.
Thank you. My question was actually whether you have a consolidated report, especially concerning Myanmar, that on your various collaborations, as well as on how you have addressed the concerns that the UN has raised. So not to refer to your entire website or all your reports, but something that is consolidated and concentrated on the issues that were raised. Thank you, and over to you.
Yep, as I mentioned before, the only consolidated report in the form that you mentioned would be the Telenor Group-wide Sustainability Report, and Myanmar is a section under that report, so I would advise you to have a look there. Thank you very much.
Is it available on your website?
It's on the website of Telenor Group, yes.
Telenor.com.
Telenor.com. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Svetlana Zenz. I'm representing Myanmar Center for Responsible Business, lead on digital rights here. Thank you very much for presentations and very valuable information. However, I would like to ask the question more on things which are not really in place right now. There was mentioned a couple of times during presentations the personal data. Could you please tell more details, like which metrics are you using to measure proper personal data security within Telenor infrastructure? I mean, not mentioning the courses for your staff, for Telenor staff, but maybe something else on top of that. Thank you very much. And one more question, if we have time, and if it's possible to mention something on WebShield. I know it's a new one, thing with Telenor, but is it going to help the personal data protection in this case? Thank you.
I can start and then you, Hans Martin. But first, I would just like to say that cybersecurity and security of our infrastructure is of the utmost important to us, and it's very high on our agenda. We're building a robust architecture on the IT systems that enables us to control the data and be in control of what information that is accessible and not. And we also build firewalls and quite comprehensive architecture with respect to cybercrime and you know, outsiders' ability to hack our networks. So that is very strong, and we are leaning also on the Telenor Group when it comes to building the capability for a safe and reliable connectivity and an architecture that is safeguarding our networks and our customers' data. And then maybe more on the WebShield and for you, Hans Martin.
So on the metrics, I cannot actually share metrics with you, but as Jon said, privacy is very important to us. We take pride in protecting our customers' privacy and are actually committed to earning their trust. So how we do that is by keeping information safe and secure and by being transparent in how we handle data. So we believe in going forward, future policies in the area of privacy and data protection should be built on 4 basic principles. The first one is international core principles and flexibility. The laws should be built on international core principles of data protection and with an application that is flexible enough to inhibit the adoption of new technologies. Consistency and equal treatment. States should ensure a level playing field by adopting a comprehensive data protection regulation enforced by a single and independent regulator. Thirdly, there needs to be international interoperability. Data protection regimes in different countries should be interoperable to minimize barriers to transfer of data. And finally, checks and balances. Authority requests should be made only with a valid legal basis and subject to strong oversight. Service providers should be free to be transparent towards civil society and media about authority requests. But I also suggest that if you have further questions on this, Svetlana, you can contact us and we can try to answer any direct questions in bilateral meeting. So thank you.
Hi, this is Heather. Till the time my other friend can fix her mic, maybe I can ask a question in this time.
Yes.
I'm Heather from Plan International. It's really great to see the involvement of Telenor Group in social development agenda and your interest in online safety, but registration as well as girls takeover. This is great initiative. My question is, next year, do you think you would expand your interest in such social development interventions? And do you feel that you would be willing to expand your supply chains to be more social responsive in some ways? Thank you.
Well, I can say that we will continue to have focus on our social responsibility and also included into our supply chain, but maybe you want to expand on the more direct to the programs.
Hello. Yes, I think the answer to that is that we continuously evaluate opportunities that come. If we see opportunities that sort of fulfill our plans and commitments, we will take them up. So that's the short answer. So if you have proposals, you should come with them. Thank you.
Any further questions? Then.
Okay. If there are no further questions, I guess.
We have one more coming. Yes.
Okay. One moment. Okay. We
Okay.
have one that is
So
trying
when
to
you're
come
ready-
through.
Okay. So when ready, please state your name and affiliation, and then ask the question, please.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, this is Neo Me from Mido, and I'm asking the question on behalf of Tai Tai, who is experiencing a bit of difficulties for speaking. So my question is, according to the Universal Service Fund, which is dedicated to serve the underserved areas, and as Telenor, do you have any specific plans to expand your network to the underserved areas? And is there anything specific with the Universal Service Fund you are doing? And that's one question. And another one is we have heard that the government is trying to do a biometric system, a database system. And what is the participation of Telenor in that? And what is there any security or privacy concerns about the biometric data center from Telenor? Thank you.
So on the Universal Service Fund, I think the arrangement there is that all the operators, they pay a certain amount into this Universal Service Fund. It's based on their revenues, so they pay in a certain percentage. The application of that Universal Service Fund is actually out of the operator's hands. It is administered by the MOTC in a committee in the MOTC, and it's MOTC who actually chooses then the areas that will qualify for use of this USF funds. So it's up to MOTC to select areas where they want to expand the network. And then these areas will be set up, and the operators will be asked to actually auction for participation in those areas. So that is the answer. It's up to MOTC to select areas, and then it's up to the operators then to see how interesting these areas are and to decide how much they are willing to bid to do operations in those areas. So the second question was on, what was it?
Biometric database. Whether there are
Biometric
security
database,
concerns.
yes. Well, I think in relation to the SIM registration, I think one of the elements there that we talked about is the necessity to have a central ID database to check IDs versus. So this biometric database that the MOT is talking about is a database that will be among the operators. It will be a sort of second reinforcer of the SIM registration processes that are in place now, so that when customers register or want to register their SIMs, they have to provide the prints of their thumbs or their fingers in order to verify. And the way this will be then working out is that if you have registered more than 2 SIMs on your 2 thumbs, you will not be enabled to buy a new SIM card from that operator. It will then be checked against a central database that the MOTC will operate on behalf of the operators. You also asked how this will be funded. As per now, I don't think there's a decision on how to fund it. There could be different options, but I'm not at liberty to sort of speak about those options now.
Thank you for that. And I have one more question about the Universal Service Fund. The government is trying to use the Universal the cost of this the database from the Universal Service Fund, which is not the original intention of the fund. And how do you think about that? And is it a thing which should be? And another one is there any kind of special plan from Telenor for the person with disabilities in order for them to use the data more effectively, and let's say to use the video calls or use the other assistive technologies? Thank you.
So on the Universal Service Funds, yes, one option is to actually, and I think the Articles of Association for the USF Fund have been changed to allow for actually funding this the biometric database. I don't know if it's decided. The project is still at its drawing board, so I don't know how the final version will come out. But from our point of view, of course, we signed up on the USF Fund, but all the operators who are contributing to this USF Fund have also agreed that it is possible to change these articles. So basically, if the contributors to this Universal Fund also have agreed to use the USF Fund for the biometric, from our side, it should be in order. It should be remembered that in case this fund is not used, the operators will, the government will probably come back to the operators to ask for them to fund it. So that is the situation. I don't think we have any plans to launch anything for people with disabilities. Selina, do you have any response to that?
So I think the plan, as I mentioned in the brief, is to continue operating and cooperating with Mili. So through that work, we are looking into at least hiring 3 more candidates from Mili next year.
Okay.
Sorry, what kind of candidates?
Please
Sorry?
come again.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, are you saying that you're cooperating with Mili, Independent Living Initiative?
Yes.
For which specific purpose?
The purpose is to offer, you can say, candidates from the Mili network an opportunity for employment with us. So we have currently 3 employees with us that have been here since January, coming into almost 12 months. So they are in a training period, and then when after this training period, we are then reviewing whether they could be regularly employed on equal term with other employees. So this is to offer the Mili candidates from Mili a fair opportunity to go on have a regular job as everybody else. So that's the purpose of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I believe we have one more question waiting in line, and then we will take that, and it will be the last question of the session, I believe. So, please state your name and affiliation. Yeah, please.
Hi, this is Oliver from Free Expression Myanmar. I have a question, a question about the new government. So you spoke today about how human rights concerns have significantly escalated over the past 18 months, including the shutdown, website blockages, and the SIM card deregistration. What would be your key request to the new government coming into power early next year? What should they do as a priority within the human rights aspect of the telecom sector to address all of these combined issues? Thank you.
Yes, thank you for asking that question, actually. I think we are concerned on many aspects of the authority requests that comes up now. So as we have explained in the presentation, The issue is that there is, in local laws, there is legal basis for such authority requests coming up. So, in order to correct that situation, I think basically the legal frameworks need to be addressed. So, today we have, for example, in the telecom law, we have a special clause which opens up for authority requests, so that's an issue. So we need to have a whole sort of setup or a whole process around how privacy, how authority requests, how many of these issues shall be raised in a separate legislation. Yesterday we had meetings about the primary legislation. Maybe we could look at the secondary legislation to see whether there's anything to do there. But the key sort of advice to the government is that this needs to be addressed. Right now, the legal framework is too weak to address all these authority requests. So I hope that answered your question.
Okay, so thank you everyone for attending this meeting, this briefing, and also for your questions. We hold these briefings once a year, so we look forward to welcoming you again to the next sustainability briefing in 2021. And until then, please stay safe, and until next time. Thank you very much for attending.
Thank you. Thank you all.